Hello everyone, welcome to Chess Comet, where we learn, laugh, and checkmate. For today's video, we're going to learn the Immortal Game. It is actually one of the craziest games that has ever been played. So if you guys are ready, let's start. White played pawn to e4. Black played pawn to e5. And white played pawn to f4, sacrificing the pawn, and this is called the king's gambit. So a gambit in chess is when a side, either white or black, sacrifices a pawn in exchange of a faster development or more control of the center. So if you guys have heard of the famous Queen's Gambit, it's actually a Netflix series, right? White plays pawn to d4, black plays pawn to d5, pawn to c4, and white is sacrificing a pawn on the queen side. That's why it is called the Queen's Gambit. So if black takes, white has an option to play e4, controlling more of the center, and then has an option to win back the pawn. Okay, so now let's go back to what happened to the game. So this is the King's Gambit because it's on the king side. Black took the pawn, and then white played bishop to c4. Here, black was like, oh, I feel like I'm winning. I feel like I'm much better. So he moved his queen to h4 right away with a check. He actually thought that, oh, if he plays pawn to g3, I'll just simply capture. And now I'm threatening a discovered attack. I can either play pawn to g2 or just simply capture, and I'm just winning. Because if white captures back, then I'm going to win the rook. So this is what black was thinking. But he didn't know this was a well-studied line. So white didn't waste his time. He moved his king to f1 right away, because this is the best square for his king. And then black played pawn to b5. So this move, pawn to b5, is actually a dubious or closer to a mistake for me. I'm like, why did he return the pawn? Because white just simply took it. So I was trying to understand. Let me go back. I was trying to understand, why did black return the pawn? Then I came up with a theory that, oh, maybe it's because if the bishop is on c4, it's annoyingly attacking the black king. So that's why he's like, I'm up by a pawn. Your king isn't able to castle. Let me just return the pawn to you and misplace your bishop. That's just a theory though, but maybe if you're able to find another theory, which is much better than mine, maybe you can share it in the comment, okay? Now, after bishop takes b5, black played knight f6, hitting the pawn. So normally, when a piece is under attack, we try to save it, right? By protecting or by running away. But here, white played knight to f6, attacking the queen first. So the queen went back to h6, and white played pawn to d3, creating a chain, protecting the pawn, and also opening up this bishop's diagonal. Later, as we move along, you'll see how strong and annoying this bishop's diagonal is. So now, let's continue. Black played knight to h5. I want you to give yourself a minute. I want you to pause your video. Try to think, what is the threat of black? Why he played knight to h5? Go. All right. If you found black's threat, black is threatening to play knight g3, forking the king and the rook. If white captures back with his pawn, the queen will take the rook and black wins material. Simple as that. So here, how did white defend? So white played knight to h4, blocking, because if black continues with knight to g3, white will just have to capture, and there's no way for black to win the rook. So let's continue to what happened to the game. After white played knight h4, black played queen to g5. Here, black was actually excited. Black was happy. He was like, huh, I am going to win material because I am forking the knight and the bishop. But here, white was pretty confident. He just moved his knight right away. He saved his knight, moved it to f5, blocking the queen from capturing the bishop, because his knight is also protected by his pawn. So here, black's like, okay, let me just play pawn to c6. And now the bishop is under attack. Normally, when our piece is under attack, I always say this, we just put it into safety, right? We either play bishop a4, bishop c4, retreating. But instead, white played pawn to g4. Bang! White is playing fire for fire. Because if you capture my bishop, I'm just going to capture your knight. And now, my rook's file is open. And I have a threat on g7. And I have a strong kingside attack. So black thought of that and decided not to capture the bishop. But instead, black played a logical move by moving his knight back to f6. Because the knight and the queen is hitting the pawn on g4 while the bishop on b5 is still under attack. Isn't that logical? And now the ball is returned to white. White is like, okay, should I save my bishop or should I save my pawn? It's like a no-brainer, right? Of course you should save your bishop because it's more valuable than a pawn. But you know, white played something that we don't expect. An unexpected move. White decided to play rook to g1 and save his pawn. So black was like, huh? Are you going cuckoo? Alright, let me not waste my time. Let me capture your bishop. Bloop. And then white played pawn to h4. Black started to think or started to feel, oh, white's plan is to storm out on the king side and try to trap my queen. So the queen has only one safe square, queen to g6. White played pawn to h5, and the queen has one safe square again, which is g5. And then here goes queen to f3. White's threat is to play bishop takes f4 to trap the black queen. So let's just play a random, just a randomly. Let's just say black plays bishop to b7, and then white plays bishop takes f4. And look, the queen is trapped. There's no safe square for the black queen. So let's try to go back. So here black was thinking, okay, I need to save my queen. I need to find or create a escape route. So he decided to move his knight back to g8. So the queen will have a retreating spot. Here, white continued by playing bishop takes f4. And I had a funny thought in my mind here. I wish the black queen moved back to d8 so that all his minor and major pieces will look like doo-doos because it's at the starting position, right? But okay, kidding aside. In the game, black played queen to f6, and then white played knight to c3. Here, let's take a quick pause. Let's assess the position. Black is up by a minor piece because he was able to capture a bishop, right? But white has developed more of his pieces. Look at the minor pieces. Look at the queen. The king is safe. Rook, one of the rooks is developed. The other rook is ready to be developed anytime. And good pawn chain, good pawn storm. So overall, white has a much better control of the position. So here black didn't waste his time. He played another logical move, which is bishop to c5 to develop and attack. And again, like what I said, when your piece is under attack, we put it into safety or we react, right? But white didn't even try to put his rook into safety. Instead, he played knight to d5 to attack the queen. So black thought, okay, let me capture your pawn on b2 because now I am hitting both of your rooks and I am going to win another material. And here, believe it or not, white didn't flinch again because the normal reaction is to save at least one of the rooks, right? Here, white played bishop to d6. After this move bishop to d6, perhaps black felt dizzy. It's like, oh, what should I, which piece should I capture? What should I capture? Is it the rook on a1? Is it the rook on g1? Or even try to capture the bishop on d6 to at least remove one of the pieces that's attacking or trying to attack my king? So let's start with queen takes a1. This is not the move that was played in the game. So let's just analyze this. What if black plays queen takes a1 check? The king runs away to e2. Black plays queen takes g1, and here white has set up a checkmate in 2. I want you to pause your video and try to find it. Give yourself a minute. Go. All right. The correct move is knight takes g7, and now you'll see the main purpose of this bishop is to prevent the king from going to the f8 square, forcing to go to d8, and bishop c7 is a checkmate. Very nice, right? So now let's try to go back again. So this was the crazy position. We will go over bishop takes g1 at the will be the last part because this is what happened to the game. So let's try to see what if the bishop captures the bishop on d6. So white will just simply capture back with a check. And then the king has 2 squares, can go to d8 or f8. If the king goes to f8, this is an easy checkmate, queen and helper mate. So what if the king goes to d8? In this position, I want you to give yourself 2 minutes. Find the forced checkmate in 3. Your timer starts now. All right. The correct move is knight takes f7. The king is forced to go to e8. The knight will just go back to d6. Swings back the knight. King is forced to go to b8. And here goes queen to f8. Checkmate. The knight is preventing the king from escaping to c7. Ta-da! Another brilliant line, right? So now, let's go back and see what happened to the game. Here, black thought of this. Okay, so I need my queen to be in this diagonal to protect my pawn on g7. So let me take the other rook. Bloop. So now we already know what is white's original plan, which is to play knight takes g7. So you should not be surprised if white played pawn to e5. Boom, blockading the queen. So here black thought of, okay, let me capture your rook first with a check, and let me decide on how to defend my king. So the king ran away to e2, and he thought, you're going to capture my pawn on g7, my king runs away to d8, and you're going to play bishop to c7, checkmate. So let me try to defend that checkmate. So the knight is protecting the c7 square. But never black did know white has set up a beautiful checkmate in 3. I want you to give yourself 3 minutes, or maybe you can give yourself more, 5 minutes. Pause your video and try to find the brilliant checkmate in 3. All right, the first move is obvious. Knight takes g7 check. The king is forced to run away to the d8 square. And here goes the brilliant queen sacrifice on f6. The knight is not forced to take it. If the knight blocks, white will just simply capture it and it will also be a checkmate. It can even capture with the bishop and it will also be a checkmate. But what makes it brilliant? The opponent took the queen, and here goes bishop to e7, check the mate. Wow, this game is just amazing. It's unbelievable. If you notice, it was full of sacrifices. At the start, white gambited a pawn. Then black was like, let me gambit my pawn as well. And then white sacrifices bishop, then sacrificed one of his rooks, then sacrificed another rook, and then at the end, sacrificed his queen to deliver a checkmate. I hope you guys learned from this video, and please don't forget to like and share so we can spread the chess good vibe. So, till next time, bye bye for now.